My boyfriend, who is 30 years old, and I, who am 28 years old, have been together for 2 years, and we've been going through a rough patch for a while. We used to have a loving relationship, but lately it has turned completely sour. I've recently been diagnosed and started medication for my attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which has helped tremendously in controlling my temper and seeing this objectively. However, I still struggle to communicate my feelings to my boyfriend, so he doesn't perceive it as criticism. Whenever I try to express my feelings or needs, my boyfriend becomes defensive or angry. He often makes rude remarks about my appearance, such as, "Why are your arms and stomach so big?" or "Why are your teeth so yellow?" These comments hurt my self-esteem and are building resentment towards him. I've told him how much his comments bother me, but he either apologizes and says he'll stop, or claims I'm being too sensitive and that it's a me problem. It seems like he can flip like a switch, first apologizing, and if I keep talking about it, he completely changes his stance. He's promised to stop many times, although he'll always find a new thing to comment on. He just keeps saying they're normal comments. I'm very aware of the basic advice and do's and don'ts for arguments, like using I statements, showing him understanding, and avoiding always and never generalizing statements, and so on. Now, he is completely opposite. He says I'm an idiot and says I never or always do such things, etc. This doesn't actually bother me. What bothers me is that I feel like he is completely disregarding my feelings, and he continuously blames me during arguments. He actually states that I am the sole cause of our arguments and the only one at fault. I find this extremely toxic, to be honest. If I ask him to stop interrupting me, he says he never interrupts, that I am the only one interrupting, so I can't feel that way, or just outright stating whatever issue I might have, that he never did, or that it is actually me who is doing that. Whenever I have an issue I need to discuss with him, he shifts it around so that I'm at fault for never considering his feelings or listening to him. He brings up things he has been building up over time, even though I have asked him many times to tell me when he has an issue, when he is experiencing it, so that he doesn't suddenly come at me with 5 different issues when I have one issue I need to discuss with him. He keeps promising he'll take things seriously, but then he acts the same, says he forgot, that I talk too much, and so on. I really don't think he is a bad guy. I think I've made him so defensive early on when I couldn't handle my own emotions. Now I don't know how to, or if I can fix it. I really love him. But I'm beginning to feel like I don't know him, or that I can't trust him. I've told him that I think this is turning kind of toxic. He agrees, but the cycle continues. My mental health is really deteriorating, and it's taking a big toll on me, where I barely feel functional in my day-to-day life. Is there any way we can fix our communication struggles? Thanks in advance for taking your time to read my post. Now for an update. This has been a serious eye-opener and quite overwhelming. Thank you for your responses. I ended up confronting him about it. He apologized and was super understanding until he contradicted himself by stating that it's my fault for making him so upset. I called him out on that contradiction, and he got so angry that he started screaming, kicking a chair, and storming out. He has never done this before. When he came back, he ignored me. I even tried to say sorry, and he slammed the bedroom door. I don't know what happened, but then I started screaming and feeling an extreme sense of fear, maybe a panic attack. Then he started talking to me, saying he wants to be with me, that he knows he isn't a good boyfriend, that he needs to work on things. I just had to stop pestering him. So, safe to say, I'm currently figuring out how I can leave this hurtful situation. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Wow, I am sorry you've been dealing with such toxic communication. Let me tell you something. I am in the middle of figuring out how to leave my 9-year relationship, and bad toxic communication is one of the reasons I want to leave. You cannot change him. He will keep reacting that way in arguments for as long as he does not get any therapy or counseling for it. I've dealt with the same thing. As a matter of fact, it happened to me tonight, again. I brought up wanting to end things because I wasn't happy anymore, and he told me I was blackmailing him. Each time I brought up a problem or something that I felt needed a compromise or a solution, he would dismiss the issue or shrug it off and make it seem as though it's my fault. If I leave, I'm never going to miss this part of my relationship. While it's still a little early for you, I'd get out now. It will only stay the same or get worse if he doesn't fix it. The longer you stay, the harder it will be to leave. I kind of wish I left earlier. Comment 2. I really don't think he is a bad guy. I think I've made him so defensive early on when I couldn't handle my own emotions. No. He intentionally puts you down and keeps doing it despite your efforts to stand up for yourself. And you're deciding to blame yourself for his bad behavior. No one's perfect, but when you know better, you do better to change and grow as a person, as you've done through your acknowledgement of taking responsibility for your emotions. What has he done? Provided empty apologies when prompted, but also continues to blame you for his verbal abuse. He knows what he's doing. He knows it's tearing you down emotionally. That's the point. You're easier to manipulate and control when you think you're fat and have yellow teeth. Look how well it's working. You're already blaming yourself for his actions. Time to leave. Now for the update. 3 days after the whole screaming and chair kicking thing, I decided to visit my parents' house for dinner. I seriously needed a distraction, and my mom's cooking is always a win. They were super excited to see me, which felt good. They don't know about the drama going on in my life, and I wanted to keep it that way, at least for now. So when they asked about my boyfriend, I just gave them one of those vague, smiley replies that didn't give anything away. My dad's more interested in my brother's new job anyway, and since Jake wasn't home yet, it was the perfect opportunity to change the subject. Dinner was great, just the usual stuff. My mom makes this awesome lasagna that I could eat every day. At one point, she pulled out this old photo album from my childhood, and we sat around the table talking about the good old days. My dad showed off pictures of my baby brother, who is now 28, holding this giant stuffed bear that I thought was the coolest thing ever. I was so mad when they wouldn't let me have it when he outgrew it. It was nice to laugh and just not think about my life for a bit. That was until my dad asked if my boyfriend was coming for Thanksgiving. My stomach dropped. I just kind of paused, staring at my plate, and realized I really didn't want him around my family. Not even a little bit. I mean, how could I explain this whole situation to them? So I just mumbled something about not sure yet, and he might have to work, and then I changed the subject to the weather. My dad loves talking about the weather. After dinner, my brother Jake pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay. He said he could tell something was off with me. This guy is so perceptive, and it's kinda annoying because I really thought I was hiding things well. He mentioned that he'd noticed my boyfriend's behavior has changed, and he was just looking out for me. I brushed it off and told him we were just going through a rough patch. I felt bad lying to him, but I didn't want him worrying about me. Later that night, I got a text from my boyfriend asking why I hadn't been in touch. I quickly replied, letting him know I was spending time with family and would call him later. He responded with a short, sharp message saying that I always put my family first. I was like, dude, I literally just said I'd call you later. When I finally called him that night, it turned into this whole argument between us. He started accusing me of abandoning him and not valuing our relationship. I'm trying to explain that I need support too, but he kept interrupting me and raising his voice. By this point, I was just over it, so I hung up and decided not to engage further for the night. The next day, I went to a friend's birthday party, hoping to chill. At the party, I bumped into this old acquaintance who made a comment about my boyfriend's reputation. It caught me off guard because I had never heard anything negative about him from anyone else before. I brushed it off, but it lingered in my mind as I talked to other guests. That night, my boyfriend showed up at the party, clearly upset. He confronted me in front of my friends and demanded to know who had said anything bad about him. I was so embarrassed and just wanted to disappear. I tried to calm him down, but then he grabbed my arm, and it made me really uncomfortable. Thankfully, my friends stepped in and pulled him away, which escalated the situation into a public scene. After being separated, I told him to leave, feeling just so exposed and embarrassed. He stormed out, shouting that I would regret this, and that he was done trying to make things work. I was just so done at that point. The following morning, I got a ton of texts from him, alternating between apologies and accusations. I decided to meet him face to face to discuss things and hopefully get some clarity. During our meeting, he opened up about feeling insecure and jealous of my family bonds. I could tell he was struggling, but as the conversation heated up, he accused me of not caring about his struggles. I stood my ground and explained that I couldn't fix everything for him. That's when he hit me with this harsh statement about how I was just like everyone else in his life who leaves. That hurt, but I didn't let him see it. I told him I needed space to think, and he reacted angrily, saying I was making a huge mistake. The next few days were rough. I spent a lot of time thinking about the relationship and my boundaries. I decided to cut off communication for a while, just to figure out what I truly wanted. The following week, I went to a family gathering, and everyone asked about my boyfriend. It felt good to talk to them about my boundaries and that we were on a break. They were all really supportive and had some great conversations about self-worth. I just hope that I make the right choice for myself. Edit. After the party incident, a few friends checked in on me. They helped me realize how unhealthy the relationship was. My brother and parents are now aware of everything, and their support means a lot. Am I the idiot for ending a 6-year relationship after discovering my boyfriend's secret online flirtation? We have been together for 6 years. It started off rocky due to our different personalities. I had just come out of a toxic, narcissistic relationship and was codependent, clingy, and in need of a lot of reassurance. Back then, I loved exploring nature, while he was rather aloof and preferred gaming to going out. Culture clashes were common, such as him showing up late for dates and not understanding the issue. We got through the initial years roughly, but as time went on, we learned to compromise. Around the halfway mark, he lost his job and was on long-term Infection 19 benefits. I was struggling with a toxic job where I was being harassed. My codependency had improved a bit by this stage, yet I noticed he was able to provide much more emotional support when he wasn't working. When he did work, he would often come home, game, and we had little communication. We did spend weekends together, though. Now, in the last year, he is off benefits but living at his parents' place. He is super supportive of me fighting the toxic workplace, often cooking meal plans and helping me both physically and mentally through my many chronic illnesses. He knows how much I struggle with work, yet what he doesn't know is that I am considering moving back to my home country. Working as a woman in Japan, I experience firsthand the discrimination, sexism, and racism that foreigners face, which has worsened my mental health. At the same time, my parents are in their mid-70s and aging. I want to spend more time with them before old age kicks in, which isn't possible in Japanese working life due to too few holidays. As I think about telling my boyfriend this, I recall the 2 visits he made to my home country. Both times, he experienced significant culture shock from leaving Japan for the first time and not being able to speak English. The culture shocks were particularly intense, as he was used to always relaxing at home, especially in the later years, unless I pushed him to do activities with me. During those 2 weeks in my home country, every day was packed with family visits and activities, which he didn't cope well with. Eventually, he became reclusive, not leaving his room during the last week and demanding I bring food to him, feeling possessive and jealous of my time spent with family and friends when he felt unwell. So, even though I know moving back to my home country would be great for my work, finances, and spending time with my parents, I know my boyfriend would have issues with it, especially since we would likely have to live with my parents due to the next financial crisis. Living alone wouldn't be an option for a long time, and I foresee he would have significant difficulties finding work. He could potentially revert to not wanting to go out as he did previously when he worked. I would feel so guilty leaving him, as he has been wonderful regarding my health this year, taking me places and supporting me completely. Yet I know that working in Japan won't be sustainable for my future, as I am physically and mentally exhausted from the issues I face at my workplace, which is regarded as a great place to work. I can see from my colleagues and society that there will be little to no improvement in my physical, mental, and financial health even if I change jobs. The dream would be to find a job that allows me to move freely between countries, but if that is a pipe dream, what do I do? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I think you need to do some soul searching about what your priorities are in an ordered list. I think you probably already know what these are. If it comes to pass that you need to move to your home country, I would be open and honest about the fact you have made a difficult decision. Then, it's a question of whether you break up or your partner tries to make it work. I would be clear about your concerns with the latter. I would still make it his decision rather than trying to make that decision for him. I'll be honest, I think you have done a lot of thinking and just need to build the courage to make a difficult decision. It's not going to be nice, but I don't think there's much compromise that would be practical. Honest, clear, and firm make this as kind as this can possibly be. Comment 2. First, I am so sorry that you had to deal with such a toxic working environment, but I'm glad he has been so supportive during such a troubling time. What I can say is tomorrow is not promised for anyone. If you feel this push to move closer to your parents as they are getting older, you should absolutely do that. In the conversation with your boyfriend, I think you should make it clear that you would work to provide him the necessary time and space he needs to explore your home country without overwhelming him by spending an excessive amount of time with family and friends. However, if it's going to work long term, he will have to learn English, and is that something he would be okay with? Now, for the update. I'm sitting on my couch, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of everything that just happened. A week after my last post, I decided to visit my parents to talk about my plans to move back home. I thought it was only fair to let them know, and no better place than the house I grew up in, right? My parents were all smiles and hugs when I got there. They invited my boyfriend to join us for dinner, wanting to keep things friendly. I was kind of surprised, but also relieved. My mom's cooking was calling my name, and I really missed it. So we all sat around the dining table, and my dad brought up the topic of my boyfriend's future. I felt my stomach twist a little. My boyfriend mentioned he was thinking of applying for jobs in my home country, trying to sound supportive. I could see my mom's eyes widen at the suggestion. She quickly changed the subject to my sister's recent promotion. I could tell she wasn't too happy about that idea. Dinner went on, but there was this strange vibe in the air that I just couldn't shake off. After dinner, my boyfriend and I went for a walk while my parents cleaned up. I tried to bring up the conversation we had at dinner, but he brushed it off, saying we would figure things out together. I wanted to believe him, but a couple of days later, I noticed him acting kinda distant, spending more time on his phone. I confronted him about it, and he claimed he was just busy with work applications. You know how they say, trust your gut? Well, mine was screaming at me. I decided to check his social media and found this message from an unknown woman. At first, I thought of flipping out and making a scene, but I just took screenshots and stored them for later. I figured I'd need them. The following weekend, I went to a family gathering where my brother and sister were present. We were all sitting around, talking about random stuff, when my sister brought up my boyfriend's plans. I casually mentioned the message I found. My brother immediately asked to see the screenshots, sensing something was off. I showed him, and he frowned, saying it looked suspicious. He suggested we confront my boyfriend together, but I hesitated. My brother's protective instincts were kicking in, and I appreciated it, but I wanted to be 100% sure before making a move. So, I waited a few more days, keeping a close eye on my boyfriend's activities. I noticed he was texting late at night, often on the couch instead of in bed. One night, I decided to stay up and confront him. I was like a spy in my own house. I caught him off guard, and he stammered as I asked about the messages. He claimed it was nothing, just an old friend checking in. Yeah, right. I wasn't convinced, so I came up with this plan for the upcoming family barbecue. I invited my boyfriend to the barbecue, making sure my whole family would be there. I wanted witnesses, just in case. During the barbecue, I casually mentioned how my boyfriend was looking for jobs back home. My dad chimed in, saying he hoped my boyfriend would find something soon. Then I brought up the messages, saying I found them odd. My boyfriend's face went pale, and everyone turned to him for an explanation. He tried to downplay it, but my brother backed me up, saying it seemed sketchy. My boyfriend stormed off, and my family supported me, asking if I was okay. I broke down a little, and they all hugged me. It was a mess. A few days later, I decided to send the screenshots to the unknown woman. Asking why she was messaging him, she replied, shocked, saying she had no idea he was in a relationship. I shared the entire conversation with my boyfriend the next day. He was defensive at first, but eventually admitted he had been talking to her. I told him to leave and packed his things while my family watched. They were all there, helping me, and it felt good to have their support. He left, and I thought that would be the end of it. But nope, the drama just kept coming. The unknown woman reached out to me afterward, wanting to meet. I was taken aback. I agreed to meet her, curious about her side of the story and how deep this went. I'm not sure what to expect, but I'm ready to hear whatever she has to say. Edit. My boyfriend and the unknown woman never met in person. She lived in a different country and only knew him through online gaming. He had been flirting with her for a few months, leading her to believe he would be coming to her country for work. I ended all contact with both of them. Am I the idiot for walking away from my husband after he ghosted me and leaned on another woman for support? After many repetitive conversations we've had, trying to resolve some issues in our relationship, I blew up, we started fighting, and he disappeared. It's been 12 days. We've been together for over a year. We've never been apart for more than 2 days, even after arguments. We were basically living together. He says he needs time, unclear how much, to clear his head, and that's the update I've been getting every time I've tried contacting him, 2 times. He didn't communicate it clearly. He just disappeared after the fight and gave me the "I need space" thing when I reached out 2 days later. We've met briefly on the 5th day after I pressured him, and nothing came out of it. He had no answers about what is happening between us and told me that he's overwhelmed and has a lot to process, that he needs time to heal. He just seemed sad. He said he hasn't been eating or going out since we fought. He gave me a kiss on the lips, and I didn't stop him. He told me we would continue this conversation soon and disappeared again. For the sake of clarification, he's not in a good place right now, or for the past 10 months. He could be depressed or something, but he doesn't want to address it. We've talked about it many times, but nothing changed. I've suggested he goes to therapy, but he replied that he's going to find a solution alone. I, myself, am in therapy for other reasons and find it extremely helpful. He lacks the energy, determination, and excitement to do things. On the other hand, I deal with a lot of life changes right now, and I would love to feel supported. I'm a lot more energetic and involved in the relationship, and that's where the issues stem from. I get that he's not his best self, but I've been feeling like I'm the only one making most of the effort in the relationship and feel betrayed being left in limbo all these days. I don't want to contact him again because I want to respect this boundary, even though he still has keys to my place. I'm not sure where we are standing now. Is it time to call it quits? I don't want to. Should I call him and demand an end to this? Either break up or try to work things out? Last time we spoke, 5 days ago, he told me he doesn't want to lose me and that he's just overwhelmed. I wouldn't believe that he could leave me hanging for almost 2 weeks. We spent all day together, and he actively pursued it before this happened. It wasn't our first fight, but it was the first time I stopped being chill. I got angry and demanded effort from his part. I was exhausted. Instead of trying to fix things, he got scared and disappeared. He told me he felt attacked and unworthy. How do I proceed? I've never been in a situation like this before. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He has ghosted you for 12 days. Hate to tell you this, but the relationship is over. He just didn't break up officially. Even if you choose to go silent for a bit to clear your head, there is a level of communication that comes with that. Hey, give me a week to think about things. The fact that he hasn't said much of anything to you in that time is an answer in itself. I saw you had another reply in this thread that he is genuinely a good person. Is that enough to stay in this relationship? Because if you take him back and he hasn't changed, you just continue to go around in circles of being frustrated by his actions or lack thereof. Comment 2. Honestly, all this drama for a one-year relationship is just a red flag for the relationship in general. If things were rough after 10 years together and 2 kids, I would suggest couples counseling or something. But you all are barely into this thing, and 10 months of it he spent depressed and very much not the kind of partner you want. How much more time are you willing to sink into someone who can't even give you the courtesy of telling you what's going on when he's disappeared? This sounds exhausting. There are better men out there that don't come with all these issues. Being a good person simply isn't enough for me. Now, for the update. 3 days after my last post, my partner texted me saying he needed more time. I just said okay and left it alone, trying not to reach out anymore. He was clearly going through something, and I didn't want to pressure him. I had a friend's birthday party to distract myself, and it was actually a lot of fun, until I overheard some people talking about how my partner was seen with someone else. I tried to brush it off as rumors, but it kept bugging me. I kept hearing updates about my partner hanging out with a mutual friend, like the worst episode of a soap opera. A few days later, my friend invited me to a local bar where my partner was rumored to be. I didn't want to go, but I did. Walked in and there he was, laughing and talking closely with that mutual friend. I think I felt my heart sink. The next day, I met my partner's sister at a coffee shop to catch up. She mentioned that my partner has been in a dark place, but dismissed any idea of him dating anyone else. I felt a little better after talking to her. I decided to confront the mutual friend about the rumors at a group gathering a couple of days later. I had to know the truth. So there we were, all hanging out, and I just asked her directly about my partner's behavior. She looked uncomfortable, but eventually admitted that he had been distant and secretive. After the gathering, I texted my partner asking to meet and talk. He agreed to meet at a diner for breakfast the next morning. He seemed distracted and avoided eye contact. I just went for it and asked if there was someone else. He hesitated before saying he's just been overwhelmed. I pressed further, noticing his nervousness and fidgeting. He started saying how I didn't understand his struggles, and in a moment of frustration, he revealed he had been spending time with another woman who's a friend from work. I was shocked and asked if anything romantic was going on. He insists it's just friendship, but admits he's been leaning on her for support. After we left the diner, I felt a mix of anger and confusion about his choices. The next day, I decided to take a break from social media. I was so tired of seeing pics of them together. During the break, I found out through a family member that my partner was planning a trip with that mutual friend. I decided to confront him one last time about it. When we met, he brushed it off, claiming it's just a fun getaway. A week later, I officially ended the relationship. I told him that I deserved better than this. He reacted with anger, claiming I was overreacting and being unfair. I just walked away. I'm still processing all of this, like just trying to make sense of it. It's been a lot, and I'm feeling really messed up over it. I know people are like, oh, just move on, but it's harder than that, you know? I just didn't expect things to end like this. I might have more to share as I keep working through all these feelings and trying to figure out what's next for me. Edit. His sister later revealed he was struggling with past trauma that he hadn't shared with me. This led to him seeking comfort elsewhere. The mutual friend has since distanced herself from both of us. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.